The rain poured relentlessly that evening, soaking the streets in a gray haze, as if the city itself were crying. In the middle of it, a young girl walked hurriedly, her thin jacket soaked through, her shoes caked with mud. Her hair clung to her face, streaks of dirt smudged across her cheeks, and her hands shook with both cold and fatigue. People rushed past her, their umbrellas forming a moving wall of indifference, oblivious to the girl's struggle. She looked small, fragile, and utterly alone. Yet in her eyes burned a fire that no storm could extinguish. That girl, the one most would dismiss as poorly dressed, dirty, or insignificant, was remembering everything, and she would make sure the world remembered her too. If you believe in kindness, in second chances, in the idea that no one is ever truly defined by their current circumstances, take a moment now to like, comment, share, and subscribe to this channel. Because what you're about to hear isn't just a story, it's a lesson in resilience, in dignity, and in the quiet power of remembering who you are. Her name was Lena, and life had not been kind. From an early age, she had learned the harsh lessons of poverty, of being ignored, of being laughed at for her worn-out clothes or her hand-me-down shoes. Her parents had struggled to make ends meet, leaving her to fend for herself in ways children shouldn't have to. School had been a battlefield where her classmates whispered cruelly, comparing her to dolls that had lost their shine. Yet amidst all the scorn and struggle, she had learned one thing: she would never forget. She remembered every insult, every betrayal, every door slammed in her face. But she also remembered kindness when it appeared, however fleeting, and those memories became her secret arsenal, quietly shaping her into someone nobody expected to become anyone significant. By the time she was 18, Lena had already faced more hardships than most people endure in a lifetime. She had worked jobs that left her exhausted, invisible to the world. She had delivered packages in the rain, cleaned offices that never even acknowledged her presence, and waited tables while being tipped with judgment rather than gratitude. There were nights when she slept on park benches, her stomach growling, her dreams haunted by the future she feared would never come. And yet, every morning, she rose, determined to survive, determined to remember who she was, and who she could become. One day, as she delivered documents for a small courier service, she was sent to a towering office building downtown. The lobby gleamed with polished floors, crystal chandeliers, and the subtle scent of expensive perfume and success. She felt out of place, a small shadow swallowed by opulence. But she remembered the faces, the scornful glances of those who had looked down on her. And she promised herself that she would return, not as someone who needed their help, but as someone they could never ignore. Years passed. Lena worked tirelessly, pursuing education whenever she could scrape together the funds. She studied accounting and business management, often staying awake until dawn after a long day of labor, poring over textbooks in libraries and borrowed spaces. Her fingers became calloused, her eyes sleepless, but her spirit remained unbroken. She remembered the sting of judgment, and it became her driving force, propelling her forward when everything else seemed bleak. Every insult, every moment of rejection, was meticulously catalogued in her mind, fueling a quiet determination to rewrite the narrative of her life. Then came the opportunity that would change everything. A small startup, struggling but ambitious, was looking for a fresh perspective, someone to take on a managerial role, to steer the company with clarity and vision. Lena applied quietly, almost hesitantly, unsure if her worn clothes and humble background would even allow her resume to be considered. Yet she had something that couldn't be seen on paper: the memory of every hardship, the empathy born from struggle, and a steel-like resolve that refused to bend. When she arrived for the interview, the receptionists barely looked at her. Her clothes were simple, practical, not the polished corporate attire they expected. Whispers followed her into the room, glances that said, "She doesn't belong here." But Lena didn't flinch. She spoke clearly, with intelligence and conviction, revealing insights and strategies that stunned everyone in the room. By the time the interview ended, the hiring committee was silent, not out of awe, but in the uncomfortable realization that they had underestimated her. And when the call came offering her the position as the company's new manager, she accepted, not with arrogance, but with the quiet satisfaction of someone who had never forgotten the faces that doubted her. Her first day was surreal. She walked into the same lobby that had once felt like an insurmountable palace of wealth and privilege. The employees who had barely noticed her years ago now looked up, some with confusion, others with thinly veiled skepticism. Yet Lena remembered everything, the moments of exclusion, the times she had been laughed at, and the bitter sting of invisibility. And she decided to lead not with revenge, but with dignity, empathy, and strength. She treated her team with respect, listening more than she spoke, but when she did speak, her words carried authority that was impossible to ignore. Slowly, she earned their trust, reshaping the culture of the company with compassion and intelligence. However, success did not erase the past easily. Some colleagues, bitter and envious, tried to undermine her. They whispered behind closed doors, questioned her decisions, and attempted to highlight her humble origins as if it were a flaw. But Lena had long since learned the art of perseverance. She remembered every insult not to retaliate with malice, but to remind herself that nothing could derail her unless she allowed it. She faced every challenge calmly, every criticism with grace, turning obstacles into lessons and setbacks into stepping stones. Her humility, combined with relentless determination, began to inspire those around her. Then came the moment that defined her leadership. A massive project, crucial to the company's future, was on the brink of collapse due to internal miscommunication and lack of direction. Tensions ran high, and employees were panicking. Lena walked into the chaotic office, her presence commanding silence. She didn't shout or scold, she reminded her team of what mattered, shared a vision that united them, and offered a solution grounded in both practicality and innovation. Slowly, the storm calmed. Employees, once skeptical, now looked at her with admiration and newfound respect. In that moment, Lena realized that remembering everything, every hardship, every humiliation, every moment of invisibility, had prepared her not just to survive, but to lead with compassion, strength, and clarity. Her journey wasn't just about professional triumphs, it was deeply personal. She reconnected with the people who had truly mattered, those few who had offered genuine kindness in her darkest moments. She used her position to mentor young employees who, like her, had faced challenges and prejudice, creating pathways for those who might otherwise be overlooked. Lena became not just a manager, but a symbol of hope, a living testament that circumstances do not define a person's worth, and that resilience, empathy, and memory can forge unimaginable strength. And yet, the most profound part of her transformation was not in the accolades or the successes, but in the quiet moments when she remembered the girl she once was. The girl standing in the rain, unnoticed, underestimated, believing that no one saw her worth. That girl was still alive in her heart, and Lena honored her by leading with empathy, by never forgetting the faces of those who had been overlooked, and by showing that true leadership is rooted in remembering where you came from, and using that memory to uplift others. By the time the company became a recognized name in its industry, Lena had transformed both the organization and herself. Her story, though marked by struggle and hardship, was now a beacon for those who had been dismissed, belittled, or ignored. She had proven that being poorly dressed, or overlooked, was never a measure of potential. The world had changed for her, but she never forgot the streets, the cold nights, the judgmental glances, and the quiet moments of despair that had shaped her indomitable spirit. As she looked out over the city from her office window, the lights reflecting on the wet streets below, she allowed herself a quiet smile. She had arrived, not through shortcuts or luck, but through endurance, wisdom, and an unwavering memory of every challenge she had faced. Lena had become everything the world once told her she could not be. She had become a leader, a mentor, and a living proof that no one is truly invisible if they refuse to forget who they are and what they are capable of. If this story touched your heart, if Lena's journey moved you even a little, please take a moment to engage with this video, like, comment, share, and subscribe. And before you go, leave a comment about someone in your life who, like Lena, overcame adversity and proved their worth. Your story may inspire someone else who desperately needs to believe that they too can rise above. Lena's tale is a reminder that strength often wears humble clothes, that leadership is born from empathy, and that remembering your past, fully and honestly, can transform your future in ways you never imagined. The poorly dressed girl, she is no longer invisible. She is their boss, their guide, and above all, a testament to the extraordinary power of remembering, enduring, and rising.